discussing about the load management tab. So in the load management tab, okay, so let's recap it then. Okay, so now what happened? Okay, till now what we have learned in the data pages. Uh, so now we have like structure. Okay, so structure like list page. List page means list means if you want to fetch the list of employees or list of data from the table, you go ahead with the list one, and then page means if you need any one data from the data table, later use that, and this is the source. I mean the class one, like where this from which table that you want to fetch the data. So normally we don't give that table name in the Pega, so we just give the class name. The Pega will automatically see okay which table that this class is mapped to. Then the Pega will go to that table and get the data for us. And we have seen about mode. So mode means read-only editable table. So read-only means, let's say if you want to fetch the data and show it to the user in the read-only purpose. I mean, just for the review. I just want to know, okay, like, okay, these are the employees who are working. Okay, like that's it. That's the only thing. Or okay, like I just want to know that, okay, these are the trains from Hyderabad to Chennai. Okay, like that's it. Like, like that. So all these things. So, but in the editable means, let's say I want to, not only that I want to get the data, but also like, I want to edit those data. I mean, edit means like, something that data I want to edit it. Like, okay, let's say like okay, these are the trains which are from Hyderabad to Chennai, but let's say I'm from a railway department. I can say that okay, like okay, like now that that train timing is morning 7 a.m. So now instead of morning 7 a.m. now we are changing the timing to 8 a.m. In the morning, and then arrival time will also like will get extended by 1 hour. So like that. So in that case, we just go ahead with the editable data page. Okay, but the editable data page, will get stored inside that user pages. Okay, inside we have one case, a separate category as a data page, right? So once if it's editable data page, Pega will store that editable data page inside the user pages, not inside the data page. Okay, so just remember that. So once, let's say if you're any of your application that you're debugging it, and you will see the data page, and if you see that okay, whether the data page got all the records or not, so don't search editable data page inside this any one of these categories. Okay, just search it in that, and this like I mean user pages category. Okay, so that's the thing, like you have to just remember it. And then sable means, let's say like that I have just updated one record, and then I have to save it back to the table. So like that. So or I have to add a new record to the table. So for all those cases, Sable data page will be helpful. And the scope, so scope, like most important one, like will decide basically. Okay, so now I can see that node is not there, right? So node is still, because it's not there, because I have to select the mode as Sable. So this thread node level scope will only be available when you select read only. Okay, so now I've selected read only, right? So now scope will be node is available. Now again, if I'll change it to editable, you can see that node has got for editable okay, so node level scope is only available like when the mode of the data page is read only. Okay, so that's another pointer just to remember. Okay, so like that. And then the difference between these thread requester node is so thread means like if the data basically is different for all the work objects, whatever the work objects that we create, the data is will be different, so for all those work objects. So for all the four for like let's say I've created 10 work objects. So for all 10 work objects, the Pega, like if the data page is scope is thread, the Pega will run that data page 10 times basically. Okay, the requester means like let's say if the data is saved for all the requesters, like for I mean that no, requesters basically. Let's say I have logged in and I have created 10 work object. So it will like the Pega will call the data page only once, and for the 9 work objects, the Pega will use the same data page like and like that. So, but let's say if you have logged in, let's say for other requesters, then again like Pega will not use the same my requester data page. It will create a different requester data page. like that. So that the node means, let's say, for all the requesters, like, let's say, for example, let's say we four of us there in the system, and then, I have created the one work object. Then let's say I have created 10 work objects, and you have created 10 work, I mean, four of us, let's say 40 work objects that we have created. Then and I have started the work early, and then I came only, and I have started doing the work. So for me, the Pega will load the data page once, and for other 40 work objects, the Pega will not even call that. Pega will not load that data page again from the table. Like, Pega will use the same data, like, if it's a node label one, like that. So that way, like, we can increase the performance. Okay, so like, for example, like, whatever the, it will load the data once, and then for rest of the work objects, like, we can use the same data even for other requesters, same requesters, like that, if only if it's a node level. Okay, so that's the scope one. And then the data source, of course, the data page is not the only, like, data page basically, cannot get the data by its own. Basically, Pega takes this data page basically that takes help from like, it's either from a connector, data transform, report definition, lookup, and activity, and this, like, aggregate source. So again, these robotics, so just ignore it, like, don't no need to, like, it's basically all together, it's a different concept. Okay, so like that. And then we have something called as aggregate sources. Aggregate sources means, let's say, based on your conditionally that you want to load the data. Conditionally means, let's say, like, you want to like, add the data, like, let's say, like, you can, like that. So from multiple sources, like, you want to add the data, and so you can do that, add alternate source, and then add source also. For example, from the multiple sources, like, you want to do that, like, after calling this connector, you want to call another connector, or after calling this report definition, I have to call another report definition, like that. So like that. So aggregate means, like, you're not getting data from one database, but you're getting the data from multiple databases, like that. So it will not append it, but it will just, override it basically. So, and then add alternate source means conditionally, if you want to load the data. Conditionally means, let's say, if my if let's say anything, like, if the department is equals to IT, then I have to get the data related from the IT department table. If the department is equals to HR, then, I have to get the data from the HR department table, like that. Okay, so those are the things that we have it. So as I said, mostly, like, we go ahead with connector, data transform, data report definition, lookup, and activity. So mostly we use these five. Okay, 99% basically we use this five only as a source for the data pages. Okay. Now let's come to the load management tab. So load management tab means, like, this clear data page means it will clear the data page, like, or flush the data page from the clipboard. Okay. So now, and then there is called as refresh strategy. Okay. Okay, so in the refresh strategy, basically so first option, if you see that it says that reload once per interaction. So now if I'll check this one, and if I'll save this, so what will happen is every time, let's say, this is the first time the Pega load this. Pega will call this gender male and female. Again, in the second screen, or in the same screen also, wherever this gender dropdown I needed, the Pega will call it again. Okay, because we are only saying that, okay, you have to reload every interaction. Let's say first the data page will get the data from the table, and again, second time, if you use a, like, if you are calling the same data page, then the even, like, the Pega we'll call it again and again. So basically, like, if we use this option, it's good that, we are going with the report definition also. I mean, because if every time, if you have to hit the DB, so what's the point of, using the data page? But all that, the Pega has given this option to you, but you can use it. And then we have this do not reload when, means, like, for example, let's say you want to, like, for example, there are some conditions, like, if there are any errors are there, or something is there, like, you want to reload it again and again. I mean, when you need to, when you don't want to reload the data, basically, okay, you can just write the condition over here. And reload if older than. For example, let's say if it's a dollar rate, okay, this data page, will give you the you know will give you the dollar rate, like, let's say today the dollar rate is 65 rupees, and then tomorrow it will be, it can be 66, or it can be it can be 66 or 64 also. So in that case, we can say that, okay, this data page, like, it should, like, reload after every 24 hours. Okay, so that after every 24 hours, basically this data page will load, and then, it will get the list, like, latest one, basically. So that is what, like, it's a refresh strategy. So after, let's say, like, if I've created a data page as a node level. Okay, now let's say if I change it to node level, and then if I'll say here the refresh strategy, if I'll say that, okay, like, if it's 10 minutes. So now what will happen now if I'll save it, then let's say, like, after 10 minutes, like, the Pega will, go to the table, and whenever you refer it, like, or like that, so Pega will, will go to the table and get the data, for that. So maybe, like, I mean, something, if you're not very much sure that, okay, whether, whether, like, after 10 minutes, or something like that, after some time the data will be different, or like that. So, or someone from the backend team, they are keep on updating some data, so like that. So every time, you want to load the best data or the latest data, so in those cases, you can go with this refresh strategies, so that after 10 minutes automatically the Pega, like, see, okay, if it's a 10 minutes, then the Pega will load the fresh data for you, so it will not use the same data again and again. So if you're using this refresh strategy, but if you don't have anything over here, then even though from the backend, like, someone has updated the data, the Pega will not use this, like, will not do that. So again, like, someone, we have to flush the data, or, like, or if it's a node level, if it's a node level, then again, if your server got restarted, like that, so then only, like, it will no, it will have that, basically. So, and for, yeah, for the requester one, if it's a requester one, once you log off and log in again, then again, like, this fresh data will start loading it for you. So like that. So that is it for my side for on data page. So not for the node level. I mean, for any level, you can clear the data from the clipboard, basically. But yeah, for the but node level means it's something like, let's say if the data page is present, so unless and until node means like basically it's a server, right? So unless and until your DB or not DB, like if you're in infra team, basically they restarted the server or something like that, then it will get removed, from the clipboard. Then but for the requester, like, let's say if you logged off and logged in again, I mean, that page will not be available, basically, like that. But next topic is basically, like, I mean, again, the next topic will also be a data page only, but we'll see it, the Sable one, which I've talked about, right? I mean, we'll see it practically, basically, like, how can we use that Sable data page? Two things we'll see it, like, at next session. One, the Sable data page, and the another thing that we'll see it as that, with the help of our data page. So in the data page, like, we can have the parameterized data page, right? So using those parameters, how we can make the cascading dynamic, select. I mean, cascading means, like, our one drop down value is dependent upon another drop down value. All right. I mean, for example, it's a country. If, let's say, if I select India, then only the next state, India related state should come, like that. So those two things, basically, we'll see it in our next session. So now that so now we know about concepts like report definition, data type. Okay, so what is why we use the data type, and then we know about data page, and then we have also seen that in the data page we can just pass the parameters, and report definition also that we can pass the parameters. So these are the 4 5 things which is basically needed, just to follow that, instruction. I mean, follow that implementation, basically. So we'll be using this, and then we'll do that, and after that we'll see that basically how can you update and basically add a new record, from the into the table. I mean, like, whatever the data type that we have, right? So there itself we'll add a new record, and but with the help of our Sable data page. Okay, so that we'll see it in our next session, and the next session,